The air crackled with the whispers of forgotten stories, tales etched onto the very fabric of existence, chronicles of an era when giants roamed the earth, shadows held dominion over the land, a behemoth slumbering beneath the earth, stories passed down through generations. The earth trembled beneath colossal creatures, a world shrouded in mist and mystery. Chile, a land sculpted by the fiery breath of volcanoes and the icy caress of glaciers, a land of dramatic contrasts, where towering peaks cast long shadows upon verdant valleys, nestled amongst the Andes and the Pacific, a wilderness untouched by time. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and exotic blooms. Giant ferns unfurled their emerald fronds, reaching for the filtered sunlight. Towering trees, their trunks draped in moss, stood sentinel over a realm teeming with life. Rivers carved their way through the dense undergrowth, their banks teeming with creatures. Deep within this untamed wilderness, a tribe of hunters and gatherers thrived. They were intimately connected to the rhythms of the earth. Their survival depended on understanding the delicate balance of nature. They called themselves the guardians of the forest. Living in harmony, they took only what they needed. Their respect for nature was woven into their being. Bound by tradition, their lives were governed by ancient rituals. The tribe's village was a testament to their resourcefulness and deep connection to the forest. Huts woven from sturdy branches and thatched with palm leaves blended seamlessly into the surrounding vegetation. A communal fire crackled merrily in the center, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the tribe members. It was here that the tribe gathered to celebrate, to mourn, and to share stories. Presiding over this vibrant tableau sat the chieftain, a man whose weathered face spoke of countless seasons.
Our ancestors whisper through the flames. Their wisdom guides us. Their strength sustains us.
Kaya moved with the grace of a forest spirit, her long dark hair adorned with feathers and beads, framed high cheekbones and sparkling eyes. She was Arauco's eldest daughter, bearing her lineage with quiet dignity. Kaya had a deep connection to the forest, sensing its rhythms and whispers. Despite her youth, she was a skilled hunter and gatherer, agile and cunning. Her compassion and respect for all living things set her apart. Life for the guardians of the forest was a delicate dance between harmony and survival. The forest provided for their needs, offering sustenance and shelter. Yet, it was a world of both beauty and danger. The tribe adapted to the rhythms of their environment, dictated by the cycles of the sun, moon, and seasons. Each day began with the rising sun, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The tribe gathered, their voices raised in gratitude for another day. The men departed for the hunt, moving fluidly and silently. The women gathered fruits, nuts, and roots, their knowledge passed down through generations. As the sun set, the men returned, weary but spirits high. The spoils were shared equally among the tribe. The evening meal was a time for celebration and storytelling. As darkness fell, The tribe gathered around the communal fire. Elders shared stories of ancestors, reminding the tribe of their heritage and connection to the land. The sun climbed its celestial ladder, painting the forest canopy with hues of gold and emerald. The tribe went about their daily rituals, their rhythm as ancient as the mountains. The air seemed to hum with an unfamiliar energy, a disquiet that sent shivers down their spines. There, imprinted upon the soft earth, lay a sight that made his blood run cold. It was a footprint, but unlike any he had ever seen.
My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounding against my ribs. The earth beneath my fingers was still damp, the creature's passing recent.
Word of Ada's discovery spread through the village like wildfire, carried on the wind and fueled by a growing sense of dread. The tribe gathered at the edge of the clearing, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. Whispers, hushed and urgent, rippled through the assembled crowd.
They had heard the stories passed down from their ancestors, creatures of immense power and ferocity, long thought extinct.
A palpable tension gripped the tribe. The women clutched their children close. The men scanned the undergrowth with wary eyes. The forest now seemed to hold 1,000 unseen dangers. A decision had to be made. To ignore the sign was to invite disaster. Arauco knew there was only one course of action. They would hunt the beast. To confront such a creature was to challenge a power that could easily crush them.
But the guardians of the forest were not a people to cower in fear. They were hunters, their courage forged in the crucible of survival. As the sun set, the hunting party set off into the forest.
The hunting party moved like phantoms through the emerald labyrinth, their bare feet barely disturbing the forest floor. Led by Arauco and Ata, the most skilled trackers in the tribe, they followed the trail of the behemoth, their senses alert to every snapped twig and rustle of leaves.
Days turned into nights, the sun and moon their only companions as they ventured deeper and deeper into the heart of the unknown.
One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long fingers of shadow through the trees, they stumbled upon a clearing. In the center of the clearing, they found what they had been dreading: a pile of bones picked clean and bleached white by the sun. The remains of a creature far larger than any they had ever encountered before.
Fear, primal and instinctive, coiled in the pits of their stomachs.
Then, as they rounded a bend in the path, they saw it.
Through a tangle of vines and giant ferns, a clearing opened up, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. And there, in the center of the clearing, stood the creature they had been tracking. It was a giant sloth, a behemoth of muscle and fur, its size dwarfing even the largest creatures the hunters had ever encountered.
Arauco, his gaze fixed on the creature, slowly raised a hand, signaling his men to halt. They were outmatched, outgunned, and out of their depth.
Despite the overwhelming presence of the giant sloth and the fear that gnawed at their courage, Arauco knew they couldn't turn back.
After observing the sloth's movements for a full day and night, Arauco, his mind sharp and calculating, devised a plan. They needed to use the forest itself, its natural obstacles and resources, to their advantage.
The hunters, their initial fear replaced by a grim determination, set to work. Working tirelessly through the night, they used vines as thick as a man's arm, felled trees, and boulders to construct a massive pitfall trap. As dawn broke, painting the forest canopy with hues of rose and gold, the trap was set, the stage was set, the players in place. The forest held its breath.
Then, a low rumble, like the distant growl of thunder, reverberated through the trees.
It was the sound of approaching power, the unmistakable footfalls of the behemoth. The giant sloth, its senses dulled by its immense size, and its focus on the trail of fresh leaves the hunters had strategically laid, moved with deceptive grace.
For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if the creature might sense the danger, might turn away from the trap.
With a final earth-shuddering step, the giant sloth stepped onto the concealed trapdoor. The forest erupted in a cacophony of sound.
The hunters, their hearts pounding in their chests, watched in awe and terror as the behemoth struggled to free itself from the trap.
Arauco, his gaze fixed on the trapped creature, felt a surge of both triumph and unease. The trap, a testament to their ingenuity and desperation, had worked.
He knew they had to act quickly, decisively. He raised his hand, signaling his men to prepare their weapons.
Armed with spears, clubs, and bows, the hunters surged forward, their voices raised in a war cry that echoed through the trees.
But the giant sloth, trapped and wounded, fought back with the ferocity of a cornered beast.
The hunters, their movements hampered by the uneven terrain and the narrow confines of the pit, struggled to avoid the creature's deadly reach.
Then, with a sickening crunch, one of the hunters, a young man named Inti, cried out in agony as the giant sloth's claws found their mark. The creature's razor-sharp talons ripped through flesh and bone, sending a spray of blood arcing through the air. Inti's screams, filled with pain and terror, echoed through the forest.
Inti's blood painted the forest floor a horrifying crimson, a stark reminder of the creature's brutal power.
But Arauco, his heart heavy with grief, knew there was no turning back.
Arauco, drawing on the ancient wisdom of his ancestors, devised a desperate gamble. They would use the creature's own strength against it, goading it into a final, fatal error. He barked orders, his voice echoing through the clearing. The hunters, their faces grim masks of determination, adjusted their strategy, their movements becoming more coordinated, more precise. The forest floor became a whirlwind of chaos and carnage.
The hunters, their bodies painted with the blood of the fallen, fought with the fury of cornered animals, their cries of defiance echoing through the trees.
They moved like shadows, dodging the sloth's deadly claws, using their agility and knowledge of the terrain to their advantage.
Arauco, his spear a blur of motion, led the charge, his heart thundering in his chest.
He felt a searing pain as one of the sloth's claws grazed his arm, tearing through flesh and muscle.
One by one, more hunters fell, their bodies broken and lifeless beneath the creature's relentless assault.
The tide began to turn.
Seeing their opportunity, Arauco rallied his men for one final desperate push.
The giant sloth, its eyes burning with primal fury, reared back, its claws outstretched, ready to deliver the final blow. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Arauco, with the precision honed by a lifetime of hunting, dodged the creature's attack and lunged forward. His spear, imbued with the strength of his ancestors, found its mark, plunging deep into the exposed flesh of the sloth's chest, just below its massive rib cage.
The creature let out a deafening bellow, a sound of both pain and disbelief as Arauco's spear pierced its heart.
Silence descended upon the forest, heavy and absolute.
Arauco, his body battered, his spirit drained, stood at the edge of the pit, gazing down at the lifeless form of the giant sloth.
The silence was a living thing, a shroud that enveloped the clearing, amplifying the pounding of his heart, the rasp of his breath.
The clearing, once a testament to their ingenuity and courage, now stood as a grim monument to their loss. He had led his people to victory, but at a terrible cost.
Their sacrifice, etched into the fabric of the tribe's history, would be both a burden and a reminder of the delicate balance between man and nature. The journey back to the village was a somber procession, the weight of their loss pressed down on the surviving hunters. They moved like ghosts, their silence speaking volumes.
They carried their fallen comrades with reverence. Their loss would be felt deeply, leaving a void.
The setting sun cast long, mournful shadows across the land. The women rushed forward to embrace their loved ones. In the heart of the village, Kaya worked diligently, cleaning and binding Arauco's wounds. Her heart ached with a grief so profound it threatened to consume her. She had lost friends, mentors, protectors. The tribe had lost fathers, sons, brothers.
Amidst the sorrow, Kaya felt a glimmer of hope, a flicker of resilience ignite within her. The tribe had faced their fear, confronted a monster, and emerged, battered but unbroken. The experience had forged a new strength within them, a steely determination to honor the sacrifices of the fallen.